pharma and medtech content with zero budget or very limited budget. We're very excited to present this to you guys today. We think it's a hot topic within the industry, and we've had a lot of demand for this type of stuff. We've worked with many brands throughout the years, and this is a core issue, and we're going to go through why we think this is a core issue of scaling content and actually how you guys can fix it. But before we get into the meat of the presentation, just want to give a little intro to who we are and what we're doing here. So my name is Chris Cubernus. I am the CEO of Cubco. We're a advertising agency based in Copenhagen. I've been working in the advertising industry for 25 plus years. I actually started out as an intern in an ad agency, little old Chris at 14 years old. So I've been in the industry for a very long time, building content and campaigns for different brands. And I have 15 years of actual pharma medtech experience as well that I'm bringing to the table. And to this fine gentleman to my left is Kamal Kader, and I'll let him just introduce himself a little bit.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. My name is Kamal, and I'm the Client Services Director at Cubco. I've been working with Chris for the past 8 years, but been in marketing for the past 10, 11 years now. And I've been working very closely with pharma, medtech, life science, anything in that industry, and really trying to advance that industry the past couple of years. So thank you for tuning in.
Great. So Kamal's going to come back later, so I'll say goodbye to him for now, but he'll be back to present some really cool stuff in AI and other things. So don't forget to stick around for that. About midway through, Kamal's going to come back and do a great job there. So why don't we jump straight into it? And before I maybe jump into it, let me just do some house cleaning here. There is questions at the end, but if you have questions as we're presenting stuff, don't be afraid. Put them in chat. We will try to get to all of them at the end of the presentation, but of course you can save them till the end, but we'll get to them then, and our lovely moderators will feed them to us as they come at the end. So, and then on top of that, we do have, this is not a sales pitch, but we do have one slide, just one slide about us. So don't be afraid. This is not a sales pitch. This is actual tangible strategies and tactics today that you guys can take home with you. So don't be worried about that, but we do have one slide about us as well. And we have a poll at the end also for you guys to share with us, what kind of presentation would you like to see later? What kind of webinar would you like to see down the line? So we have some hot topics there that we'd love to hear your opinion on. So here's what you guys are in for today, which I'm really excited about, is the main one, obviously, scaling content without added budget or limited budget, right? So nothing takes no budget. There's some things that are going to take some time. It's going to take a little bit of energy, maybe a small amount of budget, but we aim to give you guys real practical frameworks, right? Not fluff, but actual frameworks for producing more with limited resources. And we have some really solid stuff here to show you guys. Also, that content has to be compliance friendly. Right, this is the nature of our business, working within life science marketing, as you sure are aware of as well. How do you actually stay efficient? Because compliance can sometimes slow down some things. How do you actually stay efficient while still meeting regulatory requirements? We have some tools and some tips for that today as well, which we want to share with you. And maximizing existing assets is also going to be something you walk away with. So we understand that there is a ton of content that you guys are sitting on. And we want to show you guys how to repurpose a lot of that content, make it more modular, make it more efficient for you guys. So you can actually take some of the stuff that you guys have existing and turn it into new content, right? And this will explode the opportunities that you guys have with your existing stuff. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And last but not least, actually proving the impact with your limited spend. So we all want more budgets. You want more budgets. You want more resources. You want to increase your leverage and your power and your abilities within your organization. And we have some proven methods to actually prove that impact to your stakeholders so that you can hopefully get that more budget and get that more opportunity within your organization. So we're excited to give you that key takeaway as well. And we'll be moving into that. So why are we actually here? So the problem is that there's a budget squeeze in life sciences that you might also be feeling, right? We're seeing that budgets are shrinking. We're seeing that teams are shrinking. There's more demands more than ever. Marketing and sort of communications is really important today. And we're not seeing the budgets match that importance, right? We're all struggling with this. And also compliance bottlenecks impact also how much you can do. So we see this as a big challenge within the industry, and that's why we're here today. We also see that AI is impacting current teams and also new hires. There's more demand for AI. There's more demand for how do you use it in your organization? What are the opportunities there? What are the great, things that you can leverage within AI? We have a specific section about that. And also we've been talking about doing a specific session on AI in the future here. So we have a lot of experience making AI. Myself, I started working in AI 12, 13 years ago when I started building an AI search engine, actually. Now that didn't go anywhere, obviously, because I didn't have $1 billion to put into it, but I have a lot of experience within AI. As an agency, we have a lot of experience making AI content. So we're going to get into some of those learnings today for you as well. That's why we're here. And why is this critical? Every year, life science brands are wasting millions of dollars, sadly, on bad, unscalable, uncreative content that actually doesn't perform. And worst of all, it's getting people fired. And we don't want that. We want to see people keep their jobs, grow their jobs, do even better, crush it on the marketing scene. We want that. We want to see the industry grow, right? So we don't want to see this money wasted, because the only person that this is helping is actually a guy named Mark. We know Mark very well. You might know him as well. It's this Mark Zuckerberg, right? This is the Mark we're talking about. He's making money off of these bad campaigns and bad content because you guys can pour more money into it, try to increase your reach, try to just keep leveling it up that way. But it doesn't actually help you as a brand. It doesn't help grow your brand. So we want to avoid spending more money with Mark here and allow you guys to keep your money and spend more money on content, spend more money on growing your teams and growing your influence within your organization. So this is Mark. We want to spend less money with him. He's got enough already. This is that one slide that I was talking about, right? When it comes to sales. Now, this is not a sales pitch, but basically I just wanted to tell you guys that we've built thousands of pieces of content, thousands of campaigns for pharma, medtech, life science brands just like you. We've been doing it for over 10 years. I've been doing it personally past that for 15 years, but we've worked with brands like Coloplast, Novo Nordisk, Widex, Pharma Cosmos, Novonesis when it was Christian Hansen, MSD, Noscomed, Specsavers, Olaplex, which is sort of a science brand, but kind of health brand, sort of in between, Ambu, Bavarian Nordic. I mean, you might even be from some of these organizations yourself, and you've maybe even worked with some of us, those of you who joined. But just to show that we have lots of experience within this industry, connecting you to your customers, your patients, your HCPs, all of them. So this is just to say, we know what we're talking about. We've been doing it for many, many years, and we've worked with some of the biggest and brightest brands on the planet, and we're very, very knowledgeable in this area. So let's get into the challenges that you might be facing when it comes to scalability. Number one challenge, and this isn't in any particular order, this isn't like the top priority, but the number one challenge that we're presenting today to you about scalability is like strategy is not starting in the right place, or strategy is starting in the wrong place when you guys go out and start creating content. And you might recognize this pattern, right? You guys have something to say, your brand has something important that you want to share, then you brief an agency, you brief an internal staff member or staff team, and then you start to build the content. You put it through MLR, maybe there's some back and forth review rounds, obviously. You fix up the content, and then you get it to a place where you're ready to publish, launch, right? And this could take, we've seen things take 2 years. We've seen stuff go faster. We obviously want that. We want to turn around of, a couple of weeks if possible, and we've done that successfully. But you might recognize this pattern. And this pattern is essentially not the best for scalability. So what we recommend is you start with audience insights first, and that is easier said than done. But essentially, we like to start from a place of search. We start outside in versus inside out. And what does that mean? That means that we're looking at what do patients, if we're talking to patients, what do they actually search for? What are they actually interested in? Because that could be very different from what you guys want to say as an organization. So we look at places like TikTok search insights, right? Social search is a big thing, right? People are searching for their needs, for their pains, for their challenges, for the things that they want on social, much, much more. So we look at that. We also look at Google search. So answerthepublic.com is a good place. There's many, many others, but we like that one. And we look at the tree or the branches of searches, right? So if we're talking about living with diabetes, maybe a search branch could be, can you live a normal life with diabetes? And within that, we have many more pieces of content or opportunities or angles into that content. For example, we might have, What is the lifespan of a diabetic person? What is the life expectancy of type 2 diabetics? What should you not do if you have diabetes? What is too late? When is it too late to reverse type 2 diabetes? And so on and so on. We have so many different things within this tree. So this already gives us a great foundation for actually reaching our customers where they want to be reached, how they want to be reached, versus, oh, this is something we want to talk about as a brand because we think it's important. This is a much more outside-in approach. And as you can see, it gives you so many possibilities, right? We're just showing part of a tree and 4 or 5 topics within that tree, but there's so much more here. And this takes the guesswork out of what should we actually talk about, and takes the ability for your organization to reach more people and impact more people. So we recommend starting with that. And not only is this for patients and patient groups perhaps, but it's also for HCPs, it's also for doctors, it's also for all your stakeholders. You can essentially do this search analysis or this audience insight analysis for all of these types of people. And now you're expanding the ability of your organization to think about what should you do, what should you communicate about, what angles should you do in a much bigger way, right? So this is a really impactful foundational strategy for actually reaching people where they want to be reached. So both your patients and your HCPs can benefit from this kind of foundational strategy. The number 2 challenge preventing scalability in pharma, medtech, life sciences content is content is often produced with one hook and one message, right? So you might see things like this. Like I said, you've got this framework of you have something to say, you produce it, and you end up with a nice ad here with like as many people from all different backgrounds as you can get. And it's like, reclaim your day with this, this medicine. That's not how you produce scale. This is how you produce one ad with one message. And then maybe you might also format that out, right? So you'll do a 16:9 version, you'll do a 9:16, a 4:5, a 1:1, a 1-minute cut of that commercial, a 30-second and a 15-second, right? This is a very typical punch list of things that we get often from brands. And while that's fine, that gives you maybe 7 pieces of content, or 8, including the original, but the first one will probably fit into one of these. It's actually not the best way. We find, and I'm just using an image of myself here so that we can get past any NDAs that we have, but say I'm making a video or a piece of content about obesity, right? It's a growing challenge. A lot of brands are getting into this, and that video, from search insights, we've discovered people are very concerned about food noise, for example, like how much food is noisy in the environment, how much it's impacting us and drawing us to purchase bad foods and things like that. Now, we can make one video and put it in those formats like I showed you before, or we can think about this in a different way and say, okay, we know that the overall video is about food noise, but maybe the entrance in could be different. Maybe it's POV when willpower alone doesn't work. We know that's a topic within food noise. Or diet and exercise were not enough, right? We know that's a big topic within obesity. That's a message that a lot of obesity medicines are pushing, that, hey, diet and exercise are not enough. You need technology. You need a modern approach. Or I tried it all and still failed, right? So these are entrances or hooks, as you were, into the same piece of content. And this gives us way more opportunities. This is just 3, but you can extrapolate from there. And actually, we recommend, also after you find out what works, then you do your 16:9, your 9:16, your 4:5, your 1:1. And now we're talking about much, much more pieces of content, right? So when you're developing content, try to go for 5 different hooks / main messages within that topic, because the truth is, you don't know what works. We don't know what works. We have some guesses. We've got some good guesses. But ultimately, when you publish to the platforms is when you find out what actually works. So doing this method where you have 5 different hooks / starts or main messages within this, it actually gives you more chances to get it right. And that's a really important tactic that you need, because if you just go with one thing, it's not going to give you that much. It's going to give you 7 pieces of content, basically in the same format. So you're only testing one message and what format it works for. This is not enough to actually educate you and your team on what is actually the messaging and the hook that works for your audience. So we recommend You can scale your content easily with more hooks at the start. Think about when you're building your content, how do we change the messaging a bit without creating all new pieces of content? So now you get 35 pieces of content instead of 7, which is much, much better. And this is, of course, awesome. We love it. It's almost the Lego brick method of creating content, right? We have all these bricks. We can put it together, build an airplane, or we can build a ship, or we can build a car, or we can build a mask, or whatever it is that we're building. And we have a special gift for you guys, which is we have actually compiled 50 hook frameworks for life science brands. So this is a Google sheet that breaks down 50 different types of hooks that you can plug in your stuff. We have different categories like education, myths, and a bunch of others. And we want to give this to you guys that'll help you start to produce these hooks. So this is great. I mean, you don't even have to think that much about it. All you have to do is jump into this Google Sheet, download it if you like, keep it as, on Google Sheets, refer to it, and that is available here. I don't know if you guys can screenshot this. If you can, grab your camera, phone. Do people say that anymore? Camera, phone? Grab your camera from your phone, get this URL from this QR code, and you'll have the framework instantly. If you're not able to do this, just message us in chat, and we will make sure that you guys get the access to this easily, okay? All right, I'll give you 5 more seconds on this to see if you have time to get it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we are moving on. I hope you guys get that framework, and if not, just message us. Number 3 challenge preventing scalability is actually what we mentioned before. You're sitting on gold and don't know it. Many of you are sitting on so much content that has been built over many, many years that is just ripe for repurposing. So we recommend repurposing old ads for the new social. Many of you are sitting on what we call like these 16:9 landscape videos. You might have seen these. They're all across your YouTube or all across your social or sitting in your folders on SharePoint or whatever. And they need new life. They need to be repurposed into vertical video simply by just cropping them, changing them up a bit, maybe putting those hooks on, like I mentioned before, and trying out new hooks at the start to see what works, and republishing them. Because the reality is that most brands only reach 10% of their audience when they post. So that original post, that 16:9 post, most likely you guys only reach 10% of your audience. You're missing out on 90% of your audience. That is crazy amount of people that you don't want to ignore, right? So you're kind of throwing money down the drain when you just publish something once in one format. So 90% of the audience hasn't even seen that content that you spent good money to make. So repurpose it, turn it into this vertical video, and publish again. And bonus tip, if you're not in control of the platforms, say corporate comms is in control of the LinkedIn or your Instagram or whatever, then you can use this stat. There's only 90%, most of 90% of your audience hasn't seen the content, to convince them to allow you to publish again and again and again. So please use this stat, because this is going to be an important way to convince them to allow you to publish again and again. Like I mentioned, I'm going to mention it again, publish again and again, because you've got to reach that 90%. You don't want to waste that money. And if you're struggling, maybe you don't have a creative team, you don't have an agency that can do this for you. Not that we want to take us out of the game, but we do recommend Opus.ai. We have no affiliation with these tools or this tool or any other tools that we're presenting today. We just think it's a great, very cheap and effective way to take your 16:9 videos and throw them into the tool, and it's going to export a bunch of different formats for you, vertical for Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and X if you're publishing there, and very quickly give you guys an edit or a cut down of what you guys need to take to publishing, right? So this will take out a lot of that work. It's very cheap to use, and you'll be able to scale your content much better and repurpose your old assets this way. So Opus.ai, guys. Another methodology that we recommend to scale your content is what we call the main and supporting framework. So when you have your main content, say you've done that vertical video thing that you've done with your repurposed assets, you've got your main video. Now you can actually do some more stuff. You can do a static post with this. So you can take a screenshot from part of the video, add some text onto it, so forth. You can do an engagement post. So maybe a quiz or a poll within Instagram stories that's related to that main content. Maybe you're presenting a particular idea within that main content. Now you can actually take it into stories and do a little poll about it. Take a screenshot from a particular area of the video and ask the audience, what do you think about this? Do you agree? What do you see in the market? And then you can also make GIFs and memes out of this content as well, right? So think about not just doing the main content, but how do you build supporting assets around that can be repurposed in other places? So now you're not only taking one content, you're actually getting 3 more, right? So you're actually 4xing your content. And if you do this on top of the 35 pieces that we've already shown you, this is a dramatic increase in your ability to reach your audience. And if you're struggling a bit, use AI to brainstorm. What can I do with this content? Feed the script in, feed the ideas of the content in, and see, how do I make a static, an engagement post, and also a GIF meme out of this? What could I do with this? And AI is going to spit out some good ideas for you guys to start using right away. Or ask your agency if you have one that's good at this stuff. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Kamal. He's going to lead you guys through some artificial intelligence stuff. I'm going to be back later, but thank you guys for joining for this part, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Chris. Good stuff. All right, everyone. Thank you for still being tuned in. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how do we take what Chris just talked about in terms of scaling content to the extreme. So this is framed as a challenge, but this is actually a huge opportunity for you guys. When we talk artificial intelligence, the question you really want to ask yourself is, are you keeping up at the moment? Your company may have some regulations that tells you not to use AI at the moment, but I would really urge you just in your personal lives to look into AI. Where is it moving? What are the tools available? And also think about and just put in scenarios of how could you actually use that for your company. I'm going to give you a few examples of that today. First, when we go out and we speak to our industry peers, we usually see that there are 2 groups of people. So group 1 are the people who are scared of AI. And then we have group 2, who are people who are very excited about AI. So people like Chris, who already started 13 years ago. I have to admit that I was a bit in the middle here, somewhere in the middle. Maybe some of you are as well. This is basically where you're kind of excited, but also kind of scared. But I've moved more over to the side where I'm more excited than scared, because I think when it comes to AI, it is a tool like any other tool. You can abuse it if you want to, but you can also use it for good and use it for your own to advance your own purpose. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do you actually do that? And when we talk about AI, I could do an entire session on this. I could do a full day workshop on this. There's so many areas to touch when it comes to AI, so many tools. We usually focus at conversational AI, so ChatGPT and agents like that, and also generative AI, which is more producing content, visuals, images, voices using AI. So perhaps some of you have already used some of these tools here. I'm sure all of you are already using stuff like ChatGPT, which is great. We're gonna take it a bit further and show you what can be done specifically with generative AI. So in order to focus in a little bit on a topic here today, I'm gonna talk about digital twins. So there's one thing I would like you to note down on your notepad today. It is this word, digital twins, because you're gonna see it a lot in the future. And you really have to think about how can I actually implement this my own if you want to be ahead of that competition. But let's unpack it first. What is a digital twin? A digital twin is an AI-generated avatar of a real person used for content creation. So it's not an AI-generated person based on millions of images. It is an AI-generated avatar based on one person. And we already see brands making use of this and also being very successful with this, both in terms of all the traction they're getting from the campaigns doing this, but also just in terms of scalability. This is where you can really scale your content unlimited. It's only your imagination that basically sets the boundaries, and also at a very low cost, which I will get into in a second. But this is what H&M did. They basically made contracts with a lot of their models saying, we're signing up this contract where you give us permission to modify your images with AI, but you have the full ownership. So basically, they still license the images, but it allows them to take this model and place them in New York, Tokyo, Paris, wherever they want to place that model. And that also gives the model some sort of a passive income. And that's what H&M were championing when they made this campaign here. So just to give an example from that campaign, this is the same model you're seeing standing somewhere in what looks like a subway. It could be anywhere basically, right? What I want you to notice on this picture is the disclaimers. So when it comes to AI, we always think that there should be honesty and transparency. That is key. We are not trying to fool anyone. We're trying to use AI as a creative tool and letting the world know that we're using this tool. H&M did the same here. You can see that they have a small disclaimer here in the bottom saying digital twin. Perhaps I would say maybe that's a bit vague. I would be a bit more direct than that. But it's just to say that we're not trying to trick anyone. We're using this as a tool to get more content and more messaging out there. So let's talk about AI, the capabilities, and how good it actually is now. Because I'm sure if you compare, you've seen it from your own social media feeds. If you look at videos produced 2 years ago with AI and compare them to what you're seeing today, there's a massive difference, and it keeps evolving, and it's getting really, really good. So I want to show you something that I just saw in my feed just a few days ago. Perhaps some of you have a same messed up algorithm as I have, and you're seeing this weird content that I'm about to show you. But there's basically a trend on social going on right now where you see very prominent historical figures like Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking being in like real life timely situations like the X Games or fighting in the UFC. Obviously that's, humoristic. I'm just going to show you one of those videos, and then I'm going to tell you what I think is interesting about this after. So here you can see basically Albert Einstein fighting in the UFC. And some find it funny, some don't, but that's not why I brought it today. The reason why I brought it today is because I want you to think about, imagine that someone took a picture of Albert Einstein from the 1950s and they were able to create that video based on that. If you can do that, imagine what you can do with high resolution photos taken here in 2025. So it can really get sharp, it can get really good, and I'm also going to demonstrate that. We did a very quick test yesterday. So it was basically our head of creative who wanted to play with this a little bit. So he asked me if I could send him a photo of myself, selfie, looking a little bit tired. It's late in the day. But he basically took that video and he took that photo and he turned that into video using one prompt. And this is the outcome of that. So everything here is AI generated. I did not cook those dishes here. One prompt. Obviously, you can fine-tune it, you can polish it a little bit more to make it look better, but just think about the opportunities with this approach when you're looking for stock online. We see so many of the same, so many different pharma companies using the same stock. When you're just looking for filler content, this is amazing. I would say if you're looking for content where someone is speaking, there's still a way to go with AI. We're not 100% there yet, but at least when it comes to stock, really consider this. Also to have something that's unique for you. Set up some contracts with perhaps some actors or some patients or other people that you'd like featured in your videos that gives you the right to also modify that slightly. Everything within boundaries, of course. So here's another example, and this is what I think you can take away immediately from this talk, is using AI basically to generate photos. So photos is getting really good. So this picture was taken from me, yesterday, here in this very room. And then our head of creative basically just put me into a random cafe. So this could be me in front of the Eiffel Tower. This could be me sitting in the subway. It could also be me in a doctor's office. It's pretty good at that. So here are some more examples. Another picture we took yesterday. Then me put into a doctor's office, and then also me being the actual doctor, right? Now, I'm not going to say that we should go out and act like we're doctors and patients if we're not, but it's just to show you the use case and how it can be used, but also how it can actually turn into content. So now, for example, I've put myself in this doctor scenario. You have the opportunity to create messaging that fits within that. So in this case, 3 ways to diagnose Alzheimer's. This is not to show anything. This is just mock-up, just to show like, just plotting on some text on it and put it in the right context can actually give you completely new content. And everything is based on this source footage that I showed you before. So really think about that. Is digital twin also something that could be relevant for your company? Because it will allow you to scale immensely. So this section here, I want to round off with 3 reasons why I really think you should explore AI. The first one I've focused a lot on already is content scaling and flexibility. Obviously, this can go as far as you want it to go, as much content as you want it to. It just requires you to be a bit creative and imagine what you need. The second one here, and if there's one thing I've learned in doing campaigns for massive pharmaceutical companies that operate on a global level, it is that whenever they have a piece of content or they have a campaign that they want to localize to specific markets, there's always an issue. And the issues are different based on which market we're looking at, right? So for some markets, whatever model we have in our video doesn't fit that market representation, right? Otherwise, the clothing may not work. It could also be the environment. Let's say it looks too Scandinavian if it's for a campaign in Latin America. And also there could be symbols that don't appeal to the culture. All of these issues is basically what's killing campaigns. So this is also an area where you can really think about using AI. When you're localizing, when you're adapting and you're tailoring your content, AI can really help you do that. And then the third one, the obvious one, cost effectiveness, it can really produce some cost savings that are significant. So everything I just showed you before when I was demonstrating how we put my pictures into different scenarios, imagine you had to do that yourself in a traditional way. You'd have to go on a shoot, you'd have to plan that shoot, you'd have to hire actors, you'd have to pay for location, for props, traveling, hotels, production, pre-production, post-production, management, all of that. And you know that can get very costly instead of doing an AI prompt, right? I'm not saying traditional shoots will go away. They shouldn't. We need good source footage. We also need real, authentic footage. It really depends on the topic and where you're basically applying this technology as well, right? For example, I wouldn't advise someone to have their CEO be AI generated and talk about the future of the company. You need authenticity in certain areas of the business, right? But it's just to say that it's a great tool, especially if you have low budgets and you want to scale your content. So yeah, we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg on AI. I'd love to talk more about it with you. You can always reach out. You can tell me what you're actually trying to implement with AI, and I'll be happy to come out and talk to you. But speaking of AI, we also have another tool for you today, or another offer. It's a free offer. We already mentioned that we would talk a little bit about compliance. So let's say we get to this place where you've scaled your content, you have 100 pieces of content instead of one piece of content. Now you need to get that through MLR, medical and legal. So we've developed this compliance tracker, which is basically based on European regulations, but also the US FDA, if that's what you're working with, that can basically make a risk assessment on your content. So a scale from 1 to 10, how likely is this content to be flagged by medical and legal? So it's a good offline tool before you go online with your medical legal review. And it's free. You can email chris@copco.com. It's something we developed, so it's invite only. But if you email Chris, then we will send you the tool for free and you can test it out. And if you also want to further develop the tool, then you can basically also implement your own company's regulations into it. It's something we can help you with. But yeah, please do reach out and we'll just share the custom GPT with you. So moving a little bit away from AI, again, I could talk for hours about that. It's something that also excites me. But so does scalability in general, and just looking at what do you already have and what can you also create when it comes to social media content. So what we're experiencing is that you're not using your best distribution channels, not you specifically, but when we're talking to companies, we're seeing that it's very much relying on the company being the sender of the messages. And we do think that there's a lot of potential that is not being tapped into when it comes to that. So think about your coworkers, because that's actually your strongest distribution channel. We do know that a lot of companies are also trying to crack the code on how to do EGC, so employee-generated content. And there are a lot of nuances when it comes to that. Also finding the right talent, having them being open to do it, and then also what type of content do you actually create. But I think if there's one thing you should remember with this is the fact that, you know, the potential of this, you know, channel through your employees is significant. It's really big. I'm sure you've seen it on LinkedIn yourself. Whenever someone posts something, it's much more likely to go viral than if a company posts the same thing, right? And the stats even speak to that. You see that company pages on average have a 1.24% engagement rate, whereas personal profiles almost have 5 times that. And that is quite significant. The same thing with the views. When you see a personal post versus a company post, the personal post usually gets almost 3 times more views than the company post. So how can you also empower your employees to be part of your engine here? The first thing you need to think about is avoiding this vibe, because this is what we see when companies actually try to involve their colleagues. It's always done in a very traditional, polished way. You have someone being interviewed in almost a hostage-like situation, as you see on the picture here. Two different camera angles, very basic questions. We want you to really look at, what is the culture demanding right now? What is being consumed on the platforms? What kind of content is actually the one that's going viral on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the other platforms, right? And honestly, the recipe is to keep it simple. Keep it simple, keep it lo-fi. That also means that you can create more content at a low cost, which is what this entire talk is also about. So basically, taking the phone, going out, creating the stories with your employees, doing it lo-fi. We've seen huge companies have success with that. It's not because they don't have the budget, it's because they know this works. And then another way to also scale your content, both using your employees, but also using your community, because your community is your content. When you look at a campaign and it has a few comments, or let's say thousands of comments, look for those comments that are interesting in terms of generating more content. We also know that this format is something that's very consumed on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, these other platforms where people actually take comments from their comment section and they reply to those comments. There are even features that are made for this. So that's a really good engine to give your content the longest shelf life. If you have a campaign running, you've spent so much money and so much effort into this campaign, look at the comments for that campaign and basically revive the campaign, make it live longer, start replying to comments in video, make that your content. Community is your content. And yes, we have another offer here available as well, because as I mentioned, we can only scratch the surface today. There's so much to talk about within each of these sections. If one of them is more interesting to you than others, reach out to us. We actually have an offer right now where we will come out to you and do a 2 to 3 hour training session, whether that be AI, content scaling, media distribution. If you're located in Europe, we will come to you physically. Reach out. There are limited seats, and you can reach out to my email that you'll see here below. So feel free to screenshot that. Otherwise, we will share it in the chat as well. So I'm going to hand this back to Chris.
Thanks, Kamal.
Here you go, buddy.
That was amazing. Good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed that session with Kamal on AI, also using EGC within your content. We think this is a great ways to scale your content, get you more impact, get you more content out there, more shots to make it reach your patients, reach your customers, all that kind of stuff. So the last topic that I'm going to get into is also a very important one, which is how do you actually convince upper management to give you more resources? Because you deserve more resources for all this work. Like we mentioned at the beginning, we're seeing that budgets are being scaled back, team is being scaled back a bit, there's more demands, so we have to work hard towards this. And we can see that when you do scale your content, you're going to have much more data points, right? So you really need to also focus on what's most important. And we recommend trying to get all of these pieces of content, all the data that you're getting, whether that's from YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all these places, X, if you guys are publishing on X, and get them aggregated into one thing that's going to give you guys a good look at it. And maybe you don't own these platforms. Maybe you're not responsible for this. Again, maybe that's corporate comms, maybe that's the PR team, the social team, but you should be asking them for access to these things and asking them, hey, can we make sure that all of our data is aggregated? And when you do that within a tool like Metricool that we recommend, and we're not sponsored by them, they don't pay us, we just think it's a very cost-effective tool for doing this, you can get really good dashboards that give you your total reach, your total impressions. This one I'm showing you right now, you probably can't see so well, but it's interactions. It's also number of posts. We want to see these numbers go up, and you can get a good overview. So we recommend focusing on these key figures, right? Like really focus is the key word here. Focusing on reach, impressions, number of interactions, and then number of posts. And then you're looking at the total of these things, so total reach, total impressions, but you're also looking at what was the increase from last week or from last month or last year, whatever timeline you're measuring on. Now, the argument could be that these are vanity metrics. And yes, you're right. It is vanity metrics, but we find that this is the things that upper management want to see. We can argue about, like, is this great for the business? Does this move the needle? Obviously, these are important key performance indicators to what actually works or what actually drives a business. But we find that management wants these. And then on the other side, like when you're working with an agency like us, we can get deeper. We can go into things that maybe move the needle more, whether that's clicks to the website, whether that's time on page, whether that's, how much time did they spend on that video versus any other video. So that's deeper analytics. But when we're talking about convincing management, usually they want these vanity metrics, which is fine, right? Let's give it to them and let's convince them that what we're doing is working and we need more budget, right? So use this data to advocate for more budget, right? We want to create this idea that, okay, what we're doing is working, right? So show the relationship between number of posts, types of posts, and your increases in these 4 key areas. If there are increases, if there's not increases, if there's decreases, then let's find out why is that decreasing and have a hypothesis of that. Maybe it's limited budget, maybe it's the hooks are wrong, maybe it's messaging, all of these things that we can look at and start to pick apart. But essentially, let's use these analytics to really make the case, give you guys more power, give you guys more leverage, because that's going to equal better results for you. So to wrap up a little bit here, and we've got a poll coming, so stick around. The things that you've learned today, I hope you've learned today and hope you take away from this, is that we've been giving you guys frameworks, practical ways to actually scale your content with limited or no budget, able to produce more content, things like that. We've given you tools like the AI tool to actually do some more compliance-friendly content creation, how to stay efficient while also meeting these strict regulatory requirements. So we've done a good job there. How to keep up with AI. Kamal did a great job. Kamal, you want to join us again? We're going to wrap up here pretty quick, but Kamal did a great job. How to keep up with AI. Don't get left behind. AI is obviously here to stay. So make sure you're exploring this. Even if your company has some rules and regulations, what can you do to start to get into this? We think this is an important topic, so don't miss out. How to maximize existing assets, so repurposing, using modular content, smarter distribution, like your employees and things like that to stretch what you already have. We showed you Opus AI. We showed you, hey, you can only get 10%, you only reach 10% of your audience usually, so let's get to the other 90, right? Let's publish again and again. And also how to prove that impact with limited spend. So how to track your ROI, demonstrate value leadership when budgets are cut, and actually advocate for more. So before we let you guys get into the questions here, if you guys have any, we would love to know your opinions on what webinar should we run next, what live stream should we do next. We really want to have a dialogue with you guys, make sure that we're providing amazing knowledge and tips and tactics and strategies to you guys. So, do you want to see an AI and life sciences webinar? Do you want to see employee generated content, deeper into that, how to build, get buy-in from the team and win big? Creators are obviously taking over healthcare content. We see a lot of creators creating stuff about all sorts of disease areas. This is exploding. Here's how to compete with them, but also here's how to collaborate with them, because they represent a big part of your audience, right? How do you actually collaborate with these creators? We'll get into that. And last but not least, being creative and compliant. We often see that, sometimes compliance can take the wind out of your sails when it comes to great creative ideas that will actually move the needle. And we've been successfully doing this for many, many years. And we'll show you guys how we do it to be creative and compliant at the same time. So we're launching that poll now. We'll move on also to questions, but please answer the poll. Let us know what you want to see, because we want to provide you guys with great content that you find useful. So without further ado, we'll run into questions and we'll see. Maybe you have none, maybe you have a lot. We're going to see Emil's behind the camera here is going to let us know if anything is popping up, or have we completely answered everything? Is it shy in the comments section? We love that. That means we've done a great job, or a horrible job, and they're all sleeping. Too early. Next time it'll be in the afternoon, guys. No questions? Amazing. Okay, great. Then we'll let you guys go early. Thank you guys so much for joining from me and Kamal. Kamal, you want to say a few words to round off?
Sure. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll tune in for the next one as well. And if anything, please just reach out. there are these offers available that we talked about, but also if you have any questions that doesn't come up right now, shoot us an email. We're happy just to spar and open a dialogue. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining. We'll end the session shortly here, and we'll say goodbye. See you guys in the next one.